Hello there and welcome, it's Ruth here, Artful Stamping. Welcome to today's One Sheet Wonder Wednesday. So today's a little bit of a special one. I didn't realise how pretty these cards were going to turn out, so I'm really pleased to be able to share with you the technique. I'm using a kind of tried and tested technique that's been around for a while called the baby wipe technique. Basically, I got 3 sheets of baby wipes and folded them in half and laid them in a waterproof container. Now you can also do this on a piece of plastic or acetate or anything that will just protect your work surface. Then I selected some inks from the Subtles range and I started off by laying them down onto the baby wipe. I started off with creating a circular design, so I had the So Saffron in the middle, surrounded by the Petal Pink, then the Blushing Bride. And then once I'd got my circle, I then started to proceed to create almost like a rainbow effect, going from yellow to then pink, then purple, then blue, then the greens. So I just used the colours that are in the Subtles collection. So it was really easy just to squeeze the bottles and lay that ink out. So once I'd done that, then I was ready to do my stamping. Now when you first lay the ink in, you find that sometimes there's a little bit of a kind of a definite differentiation between the colours that lay next to each other, and I found that as time goes on, as you use this custom ink pad, the colours tend to blend much better and nicer. So you kind of then end up getting rid of that definite kind of colour change. But as you can see here, it's really lovely to be able to choose specific areas of your custom ink pad to ink your stamps up with. So I'm using the Bloom by Bloom stamp set, which is perfect for this technique because it has quite a lot of solid images. And ordinarily, sometimes when you stamp these solid images, it can seem a little bit dull just stamping them in one block colour, but using this technique it just brings these stamps alive. So I am here stamping a one sheet wonder, which you guys know that I love doing, and because I've taken all that time to create my custom ink pad, I knew I'd be stamping quite a few of these. So initially I stamped 3 different sheets. So this one has a design going all the way across the middle of the sheet because I wanted to cut these up to be card layers for card making, and wanted the design to be focused on one portion of the card. So here I am combining some of those really cute little small stamps because there isn't a stamp in this set that has kind of an overall spatter. So I created my own by putting those little flowers together. So here I'm onto the second one, and this time I'm creating the design on the edges of the cardstock. And as you can see, I chose to go a little bit into that purple that I had placed on the custom ink pad. And then I use the smaller flower, and it's kind of like a sideways look at a flower rather than a sort of top-down look. And it kind of reminds me of a bit of a lotus or something a bit tropical. So then I use the more greener portion to stamp the leaves on, and then the yellow to stamp that more starburst type flower. It was really lovely just to experiment with all the different kind of colour combinations and what was happening on the ink pad, and it's quite liberating to almost not quite know how it's going to turn out. So if you like to stamp but you want that element of surprise, and this is a great technique. So then I decided to use that really gorgeous kind of I call them a bubble stamp. It's like a row of little bubbles just to create a design feature, and that seemed to work out quite well. So for my third sheet I decided to use a completely different flower now. This one is more of a daisy style one, and go for 2 strips of design on my cardstock, and then mixed in that lovely floral stamp with the blues and the purples. Then I thought, oh, I felt that the larger flowers seemed a little bit naked without a centre, so I decided to stamp a small flower inside them so that there wasn't too much white space. Then to make life a little bit easier, again I teamed up the leaf with those little dots, so I was stamping the two of those together. And here I am just adding those little leaves to complete the design. Now don't be afraid, if you have a go doing these one sheet wonders with floral stamps, don't be afraid of overlapping the stamp slightly, because I think it looks better to have the flowers packed in quite close together. Now I used the thinner of the Whisper White cardstock that Stampin' Up sell, and I was a little bit naughty and chopped 3 sheets all at once, and because I've got a fairly new blade in there I was able to do it. I was kind of just trying to save time, to be honest. So here are the card fronts as they were when I first stamped them. And then I later on decided I wanted more dots on them, and I got the gorgeous kind of splattery stamp from the Waterfront stamp set, and then proceeded to add more dots and splatters onto the background, and to me this just finishes them. And here's a comparison of how they look, so with and without. Oh, and then I was showing you that I'd done had a bit of a boo-boo. I'd caught some ink off the block. So the spatters are a really great way to hiding some mistakes. And I just love, it just looks like a fairy garden to me. I love how the colours turned out with those gorgeous little tiny splatters. Then, because I had the Waterfront stamp set out, I decided, right, I'm going to have a play and see what landscapes I can do with this. And so I stamped a mountain range in the blues and green section of the custom ink pad, then got the trees and did the pinks and the purples, and then because of course I've got a yellow section, I was able to do a sun. So I very deliberately only stamped in sort of the 4 areas that I was going to be cutting the A4 card into, and then put a few more spatters on there. So then I went ahead and mounted them, and then decided I was going to add some sentiments, which I didn't do in front of the camera, but I go on to do. And if you go to my blog and check out the photographs, I put lots and lots of photos on there of the finished cards. I then also went on to use that custom ink pad to do even more cards, and here you'll see a few of them, but again, hop onto my blog and see the rest. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this has really inspired you, and don't forget to check out my other One Sheet Wonder videos and some of the other things that I've created using this technique. And I hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care for now. Bye.